Welcome to Empyrion Galactic Survival, and this video is going to consist of two parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the Alpha 9.3 update, which was released into the stable branch on the 29th of January 2019, if you're watching this in the future. It's an interesting update. The devs say it's the last major update related to Alpha 9, although I would assume that there's still going to be some various minor bug fixes, updates coming later on. There's nothing really substantial that I can show you, but there's a few points that have grabbed my attention. Now, there's lots of bug fixes and minor adjustments, which I'm not going to go into in this video because I'm not into just sitting here reading endless facts about this has changed, this bug's been fixed, that bug's been fixed. If you want the details, guys, there will be a link in the video description for you to go to. It'll take you to the relevant page and you can look up wherever the issue is. So what I'm going to do is just talk about the main features that grabbed my attention and a couple which I think is going to make life a little bit easy. So let's get into it. Now, the first section of the update talks about the changes to creatures, and what they've introduced now is a new look for golems. They've got a lot more ferocious than the slightly chunky, cuddly look they used to before. I think that's going to be interesting. Now, I think I need to emphasize that there's a good chance we may not encounter them in this playthrough, because this playthrough predates, well, it goes right back to 9.0, so there may be some changes that will not be implemented in this. I'd have to restart again. I keep thinking about it, but at the same time I look at the updates and think, well, nothing substantial's changed, but then maybe if things start to go bad, or if I get really badly killed, maybe I will restart again, guys. I mean, what do you think about it? Moving on, they've also changed the plant monsters. Now, if any of you guys played, well, definitely Alpha 8, I mean, I haven't encountered any plant monsters sitting out in this playthrough, but they were these horrible screeching creatures you'd often hear at night. You'd always hear them long before you appear them. In fact, quite often if you were in trees, you'd spend a lot of time looking around thinking where the heck they're going to come from, and then they'd come out looking like some animated plant. Well, it seems they've changed the look of these now, and they're now being replaced by something called a creepy. Now, this is interesting because what they've actually also done is changed the behavior, so there'll be no more screeching announcement of when they're going to arrive. If they spot you, they're actually going to creep up on you and try and ambush you. Now, that could be very interesting at the beginning of the game if you happen to stumble across one, but it's because also that if you're just out and about minding your own business, especially at night, and one of them happens to spot you and creep up on you, life could be quite interesting. Also, especially if they've got a fairly heavy punch and can do a lot of damage very quickly, or if there's two of them, that's something that's going to be looked at. I mean, well, hopefully we may encounter one of those, because there's the possibility that plant monsters are on this planet somewhere. There's also a new creature called oviraptors being added to the cold areas of temperate planets. And these aren't aggressive creatures. They're similar to the creatures you see running around at the beginning of the game. If you leave them alone, they're going to leave you alone. It seems they've also introduced some behavior where the young will actually follow you about and be interested with it. So that might be something to look into if we actually encounter some. Now we're going to move on to a new feature which I think is the result of introducing new factions. And if I come into the base here and we go down to here and we look at doors, this also applies to sensors. Where's the doors gone? There's the door. You see in the automatic door, there's now this option where you can say whether an NPC can open a door or not. This also, as I said, also applies to sensors. I think this is to do with the fact that if you build a base close to a POI belonging to an NPC, it means that they cannot come into your base. And bearing in mind of the scenario that Spange found is that in some ways, if you're going to have base attacks, you want to be able to lock the doors. You don't want the hostiles to come up and just open the door and come charging in. I mean, you'd need to fortify these doors. Oh, by the way, I've made some changes to the base, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's going to be quite an interesting change. And you can see, if I go back to doors, you can see it's off by default, which is, I think, is pretty good, actually, to be honest. So that makes life a little bit easier. Now, the next one is, I think it's going to be quite useful, especially when you're knocking out large amounts of items. And that is, if I come into here, and I think we go there, and it's if you press Control, Shift, and then left mouse button. The release notes actually say 1,000, but I think it's going to be 991, simply because that's the upper limit of all these individual sections in the construction queue. And if you do it like that, you can also cancel it, but of course it always leaves one behind, which is, well, not irrelevant. I mean, once I switch this on, I need some Promethean pellets anyway. The other change to the constructors is that the on-off button, I think it used to be up here, and sometimes it used to be obstructed. They've now moved it to the left, so above here, to make it a bit clearer. So I could probably just pop that on. It could just produce the Promethean pellets. So that's the next change I think is going to be quite useful to do. And I think that's where I'm going to leave this overview of 9.3. As I say, there's lots of minor changes and adjustments. I think there's been some of the POIs have been updated, and there's various bug fixes. There's some changes related to multiplayer. I'm not going to just sit here and read through them, guys. As I said, there will be a link in the video description for any guys who want to go and look at specific details about what has changed. And I think that's about it for Alpha 9.3. So moving on, guys, what I've done off camera is extend my base considerably. And I've done this off camera specifically because I think you're all familiar with basic base building. And what I've also done is put an extra cannon up here on this turret here because the drone attacks always come from that direction. I've put some extra solar panels on. Well, I've actually rearranged the solar panels a little bit because this is going to be my farming area. It's not finished. I probably won't finish it on this video, but there's a couple of things I want to talk about. And the first one is that if you watch the previous video, you'll be aware that I went out and looted the Titans. And when I got back, I started to unload. And if I come to contain, no, it's not this one, it's the Nightshade. And if I come into here, you will see that I've still got items left in here. Because what's actually happened is that my base, I don't know why I'm doing this, all my storage has filled up. My constructor's nearly full up. My storage is, well, I've made a little bit of space by moving things around, but there is no side scroll bar here. And I think this is going to be an issue with using the container extensions in a base, simply because it's no point having the capacity to store, say, 64,000 volume and not to be able to put it in there because all these items wear. I mean, I suppose if you're making loads and loads of concrete blocks or something like that, you're going to need a large capacity. So I think I'm going to have to think a little bit about my base layout. And as to start that process, what I've actually done is I've put the small constructor there. This is the advanced constructor. I've kind of created a row of constructors here, and I've kind of lined them up like this. And what I want to do is see if I can actually link things together. But before that, what I want to do is come here, and I think I need, is it storage? Yes, there's the deconstructor. What we're going to do is just pop the deconstructor on there. I want to put the deconstructor out because there's something about the deconstructor I need to talk about. And I think I'm just going to drop the deconstructor into that corner. Now the deconstructor works exactly the same as the constructor, but you can't actually, it says construction queue here, but if we get out of that, break the link there, and let me find something in the constructor. Well, I was going to deconstruct one of these anyway, so we can drop one on the bar there. Actually, it's not not the flux coils, it's the power cells. Now if I do this and come here, what you see is you can't put this into the deconstructor, and it's actually called a construction queue. Now the interesting thing is that I've got to be careful here. I'm not sure I've actually built what I needed because I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy looking at the update. No, that's an SV cargo box. Oh, there we got a cargo box for the base. What I'm going to do is just drop. Maybe we'll have something that looks a bit different. I'm going to put that there. What we're going to do is add that to the group. No, I want to add the food processor, I want to add it to cargo boxes. Let's just close up some of these groups here. Make it a bit tidier. Now if I come up to here, and we're just going to, I call it decon in. You'll see the reason why I'm calling it decon in here. And then what we're going to do is hook this up to decon in there. And what we're going to do now, what you need to do is not use the same output, and it actually gives you the hint here. And I've got to do is put that to the constructor like that. So what we're going to do is whatever comes out of the deconstructor will be put into the input area for this, for all the constructors. Now if I come into here and where is it? Decon in. We add this to here. And if I come into here and we switch this on, what you'll see is that I think that went through so quick we didn't actually see it. Yeah, I think that went through a little bit too quick. Maybe I need to find something else that can be useful. I think I've got some. Actually, let me just turn it off again. I mean, I think I've got some laser pistols, and that. So if we change to base and we go to storage, yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3 laser rifles. So if I put 2 laser rifles in, and then we come here, let me turn it on. That's better. It slows up a bit. So whatever's in here gets automatically deconstructed. So you've got to be very careful about what you put in this box, because if you say you accidentally hooked up your constructor in to the deconstructor, all these items here, motors and power cores, would immediately get deconstructed back to their base elements. So that's something you need to think about, guys. And the other thing what I've actually done at the moment is all these have the constructor area in here, which is going to feed all these constructors. So what I've actually done is I've hooked these up to this area here. And what I'm thinking is, if I can come in here, this is on, and if I come to here, is now I'm going to put it out there, guys. Do you think there's actually any value in making these? I mean, we could give it a go. I think I'm going to have to unlock it first, because I haven't even got around to unlocking these. So what we're going to do is unlock these. And I think we're going to start fairly conservatively. See if we can find the ones for the base. You've got to be a bit careful and make sure you get the right ones. Yes. So get a controller, and I think I'm going to make, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. I'm just going to let those build. What I'll do is I'll probably put them along this line here, and this will be the output from my constructors. So I have my deconstructor. So this will be the input for my deconstructor, and I'm going to keep that away from this area. Then all 3 of these constructors will have the same input area, and then we'll also have the same output area. That's the idea anyway, guys. And we come into here, and a moment I think it feeds back to here. So I think we can just grab a couple of these for the moment. I'm just going to shove this. I think we'll just put this here, because truthfully I don't really need to come down this end. I put one up there, and it's going to be made in more. Yeah, it's still, it's just knock that back 1, and just going to hook out 3 more. And it's probably too much actually, to be honest. Then if I come into here, we will now have the container controller here. Well, will that let me rename it? Let me see if I can rename it. And container controller, we'll just add this to cargo boxes as well, so I can see them all together. And call this constructor out. And what is the capacity of constructor out? How much will I do? But this gives me an output of 48,000. And to be honest, because this can't extend it, this is the area. To me, that just seems to be enough. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to come in here. I'm just going to hook that to constructor out. This to constructor out. If I can find it, yep. I'm going to hook this to constructor out as well. Now the downside of this approach is that if you make anything in the constructor which you then want to supply the constructor, which is the reason why up until now I've had the same input and output area. So if you're making things which you may need later on, so say for example if you're making ore into ingots, it's going to end up in the wrong place. I mean, just to demonstrate that, guys, I mean, we got the ingots there, so if I just put in like that, what should happen is that it will appear in here, which means you don't get the closed cycle. But the alternative is to have a great big area like this. But my view is that if I show you the constructor here, sorry I'm rambling on a little bit, this is going to be quite a full area without putting lots of items in it as well. I mean, you could create a specialist constructor in area, I suppose, is one way of looking at it. I'm not sure if that's the way I would like to do it, so I need to have something to eat. We better have a fridge. This is a good demonstration. I was about to say, I've also changed so that the food processor has an input and an output now as well. And to take advantage of the space, what I've actually done is, because the food processor also produces medical stuff, I'm actually using the second fridge as a place to store my medical stuff as well. And I think that covers the constructor side. I've got the deconstructor there working well. I mean, obviously I'm going to feed a lot more into the deconstructor in the end there. And I think that just leaves now is the storage. And again, this is where I think things get a little bit messy. You can't open the containers with pressing F. That's interesting. Constructor out is... What's that? Oh, because I made ore, not stone. So, sorry guys, bit of brain fade there. I turned stone into ore, not a problem. Yeah, I should have done it the opposite way with ingots, but as you can see here, that just demonstrates that the problem that I made 5 copper ore from stone. I mean, I've used up a bit of crushed stone, but I don't think that's a major issue. But it means that stuff you've produced, you would then have to move over to this way. But the advantage is say you produced a whole load of resources in here. So, I mean, just to demonstrate it, and then all you do is just do that. It just gets sent across. But I think that's probably the way forward. Now, what I need to do now is just sort out my storage. I think what I'm going to do is make 2 cargo boxes. And then what I'm going to do is maybe use one for general storage, such as say like putting weapons and other items in. Right, I think what we're going to do now is just see if those, I mean, it shouldn't take long to produce the, oh, that's decon in, that's deconstructor out. Hold up, we've already got them here. So what I'm going to do is just pick up those there. And I think what I'm going to do is just put these, I think we'll keep the theme going over here. I know I've contradicted myself here in the sense that I should have, what's that wrong? What's that? Yep. I'll put one there, then we should be able to put another one there. And if I come back, not my 4p, get down to here, just add these two there. Oh, it sounds like it's raining. And I'm just going to add this to a group cargo box. And oops, I should have closed it. And then we'll just go up here. Look back. I think we'll call this general supplies. Like that. And then what I can do then is I hook up my nightshade here. And we'll go there. Well, we can put those in there for the moment. No, actually, let's put this in here. Put all these spare weapons in here. In fact, that needs to go into the constructor because it's a pistol kit. And I think maybe the other one we'll call... I mean, I'll probably end up renaming these and reorganizing them later on. I mean, obviously, there's no point me going on and on, showing me reorganising it. I think most of you guys know how things work. I'm just going to put this in here, just building supplies, and you can just shove this in here, and maybe I can hook out stuff from the base, general storage. So we got stuff like that, generators, cargo containers. I mean, I could split it into base building supplies and ship supplies as well. Ramps, cargo. So we can hook that out there. General supplies, we can put this stuff in here. Put the plants in here as well. Actually, probably the best way is if I do this, we can keep the guns and ammunition in here. Actually, that can stay there. Right, just drop that in. I think that sorts this out here. I think this needs to go into the armor locker. I think that generally sorts out most of the base storage problems now. And I've probably gone on quite a long time. I think just to wind this video up, guys, I think what we're going to do is do a little bit of building. Now I've got to find everything, but I think we can do it. We'll hook that up and drop that there. And I think what I'm going to do is just put in some of these in here. We're going to start laying out this area here. It won't take long to place these. And of course, when you put out farming, it's always best to put it out in groups of 9, 3 by 3. Just think of noughts and crosses. I'm hoping that this will come out. Yes, exactly what I want. Let's come out there. I'll just put the rest in, so I know where they are. And I think if we got some concrete blocks as well. And, I think I need to make the floor solid anymore. Okay, I think we can come across like that. And I think if I put in, oh, I won't worry about that block there. What I want to do is put like a just put that there. Just come out this. What I'm doing is splitting this up, and then what we'll have is, I'm thinking is that I can fill this gap in here like that, and then here maybe we can make this into a room eventually if I got a need for it. That's the gap I left because of the insect that got underneath the wall and wouldn't let me build. I think we can just come out like that. Hello, I can hear you. Now there'll be a door there with a window. And this will come out a little bit further. Question is, do I have this as a solid wall, as a window, like this? I mean, it's away from the base. Actually, what I could do, I think I've done this before, is we can put this in here like that. Then we go back to here like that, and this can come out like this. And I've only got 20 blocks left now. We can make. We've got 5 left now, so eventually I will fill this in. As I say, we can glaze this wall here completely. I mean, in theory the glass should support the concrete roof, and eventually what I will do is come out another set of 3s, so it'll be another 6 blocks, 2 groups of 3 out here, and then that, I think that would be a big enough greenhouse to get the base up and running. And then eventually we'll just plant it all up. I may put a glass wall, oops, get out of the way, I was talking to myself now. I may put a glass wall along here, but then do I need it? Maybe I could just glaze in the rest of the back of the base there. And it's getting night, it's coming to the end of the day. I think this is where I'm going to leave it, guys. Hope you found the video interesting. As I say, if you've got any opinions, comments on how you would lay out the storage for a base, feel free to chuck it in the comments, because I'll be very interested in how you guys manage your base space, because it does seem to be becoming a little bit more of an interesting subject now compared to what it was in the past. And I think it just needs a little bit more thought and refinement, but I think I've got the basis here, even if it isn't. See, it still won't open that container extension. I mean, if I touch the controller, you get, so in some ways, if you don't want to use the P key, maybe the controller should be there, so that if I wanted to get into that quickly. But then with logistics, why would you want to do that? Anyway, guys, I'm rambling and you've probably got better things to do, so this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it interesting. Next part, I've got a comment from someone about an abandoned drone base. Apologies, I'm doing this very much off the cuff. Maybe we will start in the next part getting out and trying to do a bit of exploring. Maybe it's time that we went all the way around the planet. I mean, that could be something that could be worth looking at, and really start to open up this area here and see what else is around. Just have a bit of fun. Anyway, that's for the next part, guys. This is where I'm going to leave it. Until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.